Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at a story about devotion and pride and really what it means to be selfless.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. Our source material takes us to a Hanuman temple in India. And, well, let's just say outward displays of faith and genuine acts of service, sometimes they don't exactly go hand in hand.
It's so true. It's like all those human desires for recognition and wanting to connect with others, you see those play out in a really interesting way in religious settings.
Okay, so picture this. Every Tuesday, there's this guy who shows up at this temple, right? And he makes a huge show of offering like 5 kilos of ladoos.
5 kilos? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, 5 kilos. That's a lot of ladoos. And of course, he shares them with everyone, It's like he wants to be seen as this like super devoted guy.
Yeah. Offering food, sharing it with others at a temple, that is pretty common in a lot of religions. But I got to ask, it sounds like you're emphasizing the whole show part of it. Do you think there's something more to his actions than just pure devotion? Well, the story definitely hints that this guy isn't just being generous. He's totally putting on a performance. He wants everyone to see how devoted and how generous he is. It's like he's trying to win, like most pious award or something.
It's amazing how sometimes, even when we're doing something that seems selfless, there's this desire for validation lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what's the underlying need that he's trying to meet? Is it possible that it goes even deeper than just wanting approval from other people? Maybe he's tying his sense of self-worth to how devoted he appears to be.
That's a really interesting point. You get this. One day he brings his young son along. Like he wants his kid to witness how great he is. It's almost like he's using his son as an audience for this whole self-congratulatory display of devotion.
That adds another layer to it, doesn't it? I mean, you have to think about how that kind of behavior impacts the child.
Right.
Like, what message is that sending about what devotion and generosity really are? Could it actually shape the kid's understanding of those concepts in a way that makes him focus more on outward appearance than, what's actually in his heart?
And here's where things take a bit of a turn. So after their little trip to the temple, they're walking through this street fair, right? There are all kinds of vendors, lots of activity, and the kid, like any kid would be, is super excited by everything he sees.
Sure.
He spots a balloon seller and naturally wants a balloon. But what happens next? Well, it really reveals the father's true colors.
Oh, I see where this is going. I bet this is where his carefully constructed image of being so pious gets challenged. These everyday moments, they often expose our true selves more than those big showy gestures, don't they?
You're telling me. So instead of just buying his son a balloon, the father, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
He gets angry, like really angry. He slaps the kid and yells at him for wanting something so frivolous.
Yeah.
It's like a mask just drops. And you see this huge disconnect between the way he acts all devout at the temple and how harshly he treats his own son.
It is pretty jarring to see that sudden shift in his behavior. It makes you wonder if maybe all that generosity he displayed earlier was actually a way of avoiding dealing with some deeper emotional issues.
Like what?
Well, maybe things like his own insecurities or his inability to connect with his son in a real, genuine way.
That's a good point. And just as we're thinking about all of this, the story introduces another character. Remember the balloon seller? He sees this whole interaction and decides to do something pretty amazing.
Oh, what does he do?
Out of the kindness of his heart, he offers the kid a balloon for free.
Ah, that's sweet.
I would think the father would be grateful, right?
Oh,
But no, his reaction is totally the opposite.
haha. Oh, I can just imagine. I bet the father's ego takes a hit, especially since the balloon seller isn't exactly the image of a devout person.
Exactly. It's like the balloon seller's simple act of kindness is exposing how hollow the father's performance really is.
Right. Yeah, it feels very threatening to someone like that.
You got it. The father just loses it. He starts yelling at the balloon seller, accusing him of trying to exploit children to make money. The hypocrisy is mind-blowing.
Wow, that really speaks volumes about what's going on inside the father's head, don't you think? He's so fixated on preserving this image of piety that he can't even grasp the idea of someone wanting to bring joy to others without some kind of ulterior motive.
Exactly. And you got to wonder if he even sees the irony of the whole situation.
Yeah.
He just scolded his son for wanting a simple balloon, and now he's accusing someone else of preying on that same desire.
It just shows how complex human behavior can be, right? We often rush to judge others based on our own limited perspective and assumptions without really trying to understand their actions or what's motivating them.
So we have this really interesting dynamic forming. We have this guy who appears devout, but struggles with genuine kindness, a kid caught in the crossfire, and a balloon seller whose simple act of generosity is forcing everyone to take a hard look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's a fascinating setup.
Where does the story go from here? I'm dying to know what the balloon seller says in response to all of this.
Me too. I have a feeling we're about to learn a powerful lesson about what true devotion really means.
Oh, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I bet we are in for a powerful lesson here.
You are so right. So the balloon seller, instead of getting defensive, he just smiles, like a really genuine smile. And he explains that he actually doesn't come to the temple to sell balloons at all.
Wait, really? He's giving them away? That's amazing. What makes him do that?
So he tells the father that he once heard a wise man say that, children are a manifestation of God.
Oh, wow.
And it really stuck with him. He decided that his own way of showing devotion, his worship, would be to bring joy to these children.
That's incredible. It really makes you compare the two men, doesn't it?
Totally.
You have the father so concerned with appearances and how devoted he seems. Then you have the balloon seller who just quietly does these acts of service without needing any praise or recognition.
It's a really striking contrast. The balloon seller, every Tuesday, he buys 100 balloons.
Wow, 100.
Yeah. He offers the first one to Hanuman at the temple and then spends the rest of the day handing them out to kids at the fair. It's like his ritual,
Yeah,
his way of expressing his devotion.
it makes you think about how differently people experience their spirituality,
Yeah.
For this guy, it's not about big gestures or needing everyone to see how religious he is. It's these little acts of kindness, these small things that can really affect those kids' lives.
Right. And the fact that he doesn't even defend himself against the father's accusations. He just explains his actions and goes right back to handing out balloons like nothing even happened.
That says a lot about him, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
There's certain strength in that, a quiet confidence that comes from really living your values.
For sure.
He's not worried about proving himself to the father or winning an argument or anything like that. He's being himself. He's expressing his devotion in a way that feels authentic to him.
And you can tell that it really gets to the father.
Yeah.
This guy's putting on this whole show of devotion every week, right? And then this unassuming balloon seller comes along, does this simple act of kindness,
Yeah.
and just totally overshadows him.
Yeah, it is kind of funny when you think about it like that.
It really is.
It's such a beautiful example of how powerful true humility can be. It shines so much brighter than any outward display of, fake piety.
I know, right?
The balloon seller's actions really show what true devotion is all about. It's not about saying the right things or looking a certain way. It's about how we treat other people, especially those who need it the most.
You know what really got to me about this story?
What's that?
I mean, it was really moving, obviously. But the thing that really hit me is how the balloon seller's actions, they weren't really about religion, at least not in the traditional sense.
What do you mean?
It was about recognizing that every kid deserves to feel valued and loved. And he just wanted to make them happy. It's something that goes beyond any one belief system.
Yeah, I see.
Like, it's a universal thing.
It is. It's about connecting to something bigger than ourselves, finding meaning in our actions,
Right.
And sometimes the most powerful way to do that is through these simple gestures, like offering a child a balloon.
Makes you wonder what the world would be like if we all had that kind of selfless attitude, doesn't it?
Oh, I know.
If we focus less on proving ourselves and more on lifting each other up.
What a world that would be.
It would be amazing.
A world where a simple balloon could be a symbol of connection and compassion. Now, that's a world I would love to live in.
I think this deep dive has been really insightful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that true devotion isn't about grand gestures or trying to impress people.
Right.
It's about those small, quiet acts of kindness we do without expecting anything in return.
It's also a good reminder to be careful about judging others too quickly.
You're right.
I mean, we often jump to conclusions about people based on how they look or what we think we know about them without truly understanding where they're coming from. Maybe the father, despite how he acted, was trying to teach his son a lesson about patience or the value of hard work.
Exactly. It's easy to judge them, but we're only seeing a tiny part of their lives.
We are.
There's always a bigger picture.
There is, and that's one of the things that makes this story so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It challenges us to look deeper and to recognize how complicated human behavior really is.
It does.
There aren't always easy answers.
For sure.
Just opportunities to reflect and to grow.
This story has definitely made me think about my own actions and motivations.
Same here.
Like, where am I seeking validation? Am I letting my ego get in the way of connecting with people or helping others?
Those are important questions to think about. I think what this story is trying to tell us is to look at our own lives and figure out how we can be more humble, more compassionate, and more willing to serve others.
And maybe we can all find a way to bring a little bit of that balloon sailor's spirit into the world,
Huh.
To treat each other with more kindness and understanding, to see the good in everyone, even when it's not so obvious.
That's a beautiful thought. It all starts with setting that intention, with wanting to make a positive difference, one small step at a time.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah,
we want to leave you with this question. What's a small act of kindness that you can do today?
I like that.
It doesn't have to be anything big or heroic. It could be as simple as giving someone a genuine compliment,
Mm-hmm.
or really listening to a friend who needs to talk, or even just holding the door open for a stranger.
Right.
Those little things can have a huge impact,
They really can.
not just on the people around us, but on ourselves too.
Exactly. When we shift our focus from trying to make ourselves look good to actually helping others, we find a whole new level of happiness and connection. We start to see the world in a different light.
It's like this story has given us a new pair of glasses to look through, one that helps us see those small acts of kindness and realize how important they really are.
And that even the smallest actions can tell us a lot about who we are as humans and the potential for good that we all have.
So as we finish up this deep dive into the unexpected act of devotion, we'll leave you with one final thought. What seemingly insignificant act of kindness are you going to choose to bring into the world today?
That's a good one.
And how do you think that act, that little ripple of generosity, will make a difference in ways you might not even imagine?
Yeah, it really makes you think, like what about all those little acts of kindness we see every day? Like someone letting you merge in traffic
Yeah.
or a barista remembering your order. Or even just a stranger helping you pick up something you dropped.
Totally. Maybe those are all like mini acts of devotion in their own way.
That's such a cool way to look at it. It's easy to just get caught up in everything and not even notice those little moments.
I know.
But like we saw in the story, they can be so powerful.
This deep dive has been such a good reminder to just pay attention, to be present and appreciate those little bits of grace that are happening all around us.
It is, isn't it? And maybe it's also like a nudge to be more intentional with our own actions.
Yeah, I like it.
What little thing could we do today? It doesn't have to be anything big or dramatic, like maybe giving someone a real genuine compliment or just really listening to a friend who needs to vent.
Yeah.
Or even making eye contact and smiling at someone who looks down.
It's amazing how much those small things can impact people.
I know, they really can.
Not just for them, but for us too.
Exactly. When we stop focusing on promoting ourselves and start focusing on serving others, it brings a whole new level of fulfillment, a feeling of connection,
Definitely.
We start to see the world differently. And that change in perspective, that can be so powerful.
Absolutely. It's like this story has given us new eyes to see the world with, one where even the tiniest gestures can show us something deep about human nature and the good that's inside each of us.
And as we go through life, it's important to remember that real devotion, it's not about getting attention or awards. It's about cultivating that desire to help others, to realize we're all connected, and to find ways to contribute to everyone's well-being, no matter how small those contributions might seem.
That's a great way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the unexpected act of devotion, we want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
What small act of kindness are you going to bring into the world today?
It's a great question.
And how do you think that act, that tiny wave of generosity, will ripple out and make a difference in ways you can't even imagine?
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.